votes that they received were very few. Don't catch the stupid, don't buy their BS. That climate change is real, inflation's not. Don't catch the stupid, don't you believe them? Because distraction and diversion's all they got. Everyone knows that hurricanes are caused by global warming. Pleasure delusion led to confusion. January 6th is a smoke screen, not a green peel. It's a disguise deal, like your vaccine, like put the vaccine. Don't catch the stupid, you just can't do it. That in women's sports, men should compete. They're teaching sex ed in kindergarten. They're destructive policies we must defeat. Like wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Statues are fallen, it's so appalling to ignore Hunter's laptop and his theft. Don't catch the stupid, rejected nonsense. Everything is stupid on the left.
That's a tough song to do live. Because it's funny, but you hear everything. And so to everybody who said that was misinformation, we did that song and we stuck it in their faces. And you laughed at it, and now you even know the song, you're singing it, and you know. My wife said she was going to leave me in December, and I didn't have a job, and it got so bad, I sold my class ring to pay the rent. It was pretty bad. This was only 5 years ago. Because when you're 50-something, they don't want you to music radio anymore unless you're playing oldies, you know. And a lot of people are beginning to kind of come to the denouement of their career. I was not ready for that. And I got a call from Chris Reddy at Newsmax, and he said, "Holy hell, I was at the car dealership." Rob Carson? Yeah. Chris Reddy. Is he Chris Reddy? Yeah. Can I help you? I was like, "You want to buy a car?" That was the best thing I could hope for. I said, "Oh, please let him stop by me. Come on. He said, "Where the hell have you been?" I said, "Well, I've been in an abusive relationship with radio for 20 years. And he said, "I think you got a real talent, and I want to make you a star." That's what he said to me. I was like, "Okay, sure. And he knew that I did a podcast called "What in the World is Going On with Rob Carson," which is something you guys ask every day. What in the world is going on with Rob Carson? And Chris said, "Let's call it Rob Carson's What in the World." And so I started doing a TV show. I built a studio in my home. Nobody else in the country had started doing TV from their desktop. They were all doing it on their phone. Look, on Facebook Live, I figured out how to do a studio, green screen, the whole deal in 2016, and I did it for 4 years before I got hired. So I went every night after selling cars, and then I'd go home exhausted, do show prep and do a show, and then go to bed, get up and do car sales again, and he noticed. And he gave me a TV show, then he gave me a podcast. He said, "Let's call it the Newsmax Daily with Rob Carson." And every day I'd do a 1-hour show featuring Newsmax clips, and I would do my commentary. One day, October 18th, 2021, we had 300,000 downloads. And he said, "I think we're going to give you a syndicated show. We're going to build Newsmax Radio around Rob Carson." And they talked to these guys, and these guys put me on noon to 3. With talk radio, you never know what you're going to get. Ratings are always weird because they oversample. They always send more books to the urban stations and large centers. And there's a lot of prejudice against talk and conservative talk radio. The first few months of the show, we outperformed Limbaugh's final year very nicely. And we've added markets ever since. We just got some news. We were across New Hampshire, and we blew it out of the water. We blew it out of the water. And here's one of the reasons why. It's because anybody can pound a desk. It takes somebody to be able to make people laugh and entertain them and connect with them, you know? And that's rare. About 6 months ago, I was becoming the desk poundy guy, and I was getting a little too serious, and I stopped myself because I went to Walgreens and I put my arm in a blood pressure cuff, and it was high. And I said, A, I gotta stop eating Ruffles and ranch dressing at 9 p.m. And B, I gotta bring down the temperature. I can't be pissed every day. I can't be pissed off for 3 hours. And then I thought, I've got a gift. I'm able to make people laugh. I wrote comedy for Rush Limbaugh for 20 years. His funniest stuff. And I said, you know, for the first time in my career, people are watching my TV show first, then coming to the radio show, and they laugh, 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 and here's this guy going, and I went, I'm failing now. So we really started to focus on the comedy of it. And that's why, very shortly, we're going to have Jim Gossett. How many know Jim Gossett? Jim Gossett and I have worked together for about a dozen years. I never met him before today. I've never met him in person. I also worked for Johnny Donovan at the EIB for 20 years, and I never met him. I know it sounds really weird. I think they don't like me. Jim, I'll come down to Atlanta. No, we're cool. We're cool. We're fine. So we're gonna have him do some stand-up here very shortly, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna do some song parodies. Then we're gonna do a little Q&A. All right. But let me talk a little bit about what's happening with the country. Right now, we are being denied the promises that were promised to us by our founders. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Our government is not allowing us to have those. They denied us life with COVID. They allowed people to die in nursing homes. They didn't let them take hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, which, by the way, cleaned out all of the COVID out of Uttar Pradesh, the largest province in India, and they wanted to sell vaccines. So a lot of people died because they were told there were no other treatments. So they denied us life. They denied us liberty. They took away. I knew things were serious when they said you couldn't go to church.
Yeah. Right.
And I said, I'm done. You are not going to tell me I can't go to church. And I watched the American people, who many did not want to go, but they were forced into it. Your church doors were closed. They sent out people to check license plate numbers and all of that. They took away our right to worship. And that's when I realized we were under attack, because no government would do that. You cannot do that. You cannot take away the right of the people to assemble. You cannot take away the right of the people to worship. These are sacred. People have died for this, and they used a virus to do it. Now, I'm not saying that COVID wasn't serious. I got it. I should have worn a condom. Just kidding. I got COVID. You know what it was? Here's something funny. I sold cars for a year of COVID. And I shook hands, and I didn't wear a mask, and then they made me wear a mask, and I never got COVID, and nobody in my dealership died, and every night I go to the hospital nearby, and there was nobody in the emergency room, and I went, something's going on. I said, we're getting played. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. And I remember when I went up and I took a video, and I'd say, well, I'm here at the hospital again, we got the world's deadliest virus, and nobody's here. I had friends unfriend me, stop being my friend, because I said, this is bullshit. Sorry, do you mind if I say bullshit? I apologize. I can get it out of the way. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. But I said this, and then why are there people not falling down in the street? Why do I not know anybody who died of COVID? Why was my daughter out of school for a year, and he went back to school? 2,600 people go to school, work, coach, and that, and there. You know how many died? 0! And I went, bull crap. Bullshit. And then I would go by the places that stayed open, the liquor stores. When I used to drink, not anymore. Home Depot, Walmart, and I went out behind Walmart, and I didn't see any body pits. I figured everybody was going to die because they're working at Walmart. We were lied to. We were lied to. We could have gone to work and our kids had gone to school. I got 2 kids who, my son missed a good share of his college. Couldn't even hang with his friends, and he carried emotional shrapnel with him. And my daughter did too. And I'm not going to forget that. So we had denial of life, of liberty, then they took away our right to speak. And most people didn't know it. I did. Because I couldn't suddenly have an opinion on COVID. When in the world was somebody in this country not allowed to have an opinion? Guys, the most sacred thing you have is your opinion. People die in shark-infested waters to come here because they can't speak where they're from. And they did it to us. And I was outraged. And I went on the air and I said, nobody has the right to tell me I can't say something. But they kept going and they kept going and they kept going. The day after the election, I watched Fox News in 2020. I watched Fox News in 2020. I'm sitting there watching Brent Bear. I'm like, we're going to win this, man. We are going to win this. Oh, this is glorious. And I went to bed and I found out that 5 battleground states all simultaneously stopped counting their votes. And in Atlanta, they said they had a water main break. That was a lie. And they stuffed ballots and they brought suitcases out from under desks and they said, you're crazy for thinking we stole the election. Do you know why I know that 2020 was stolen? Because I'm not stupid. Are you ready? Do you know why I knew there was no Russia collusion?
Because I'm not stupid.
Do you know why I know Joe Biden has advanced dementia?
Because I'm not stupid.
Do you know why I'm so good looking?
Or not.
We're not. Who's the guy who did the national anthem? Okay, stand up. What's your name, boss?
Scott Williams.
Get up here.
We're friends on Facebook.
First of all, thanks for your service. Okay, so Scott, a Rock War veteran. Isn't it interesting to see a guy this young wear one of those hats? Isn't that amazing? You're 52. Listen to that. So, okay, we were going to have a musical national anthem. I think Jonathan said, well, and you volunteered to sing. Was he freaking amazing? Oh my God! Thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. I want your supplement regiment. I swear, I'm 58. What the hell? Oh my God, you have no idea. Selling cars, so interesting. I had to sell cars. And you know, when I was selling cars, I thought about when I came back to the radio, not telling anybody because I was ashamed of it. I was ashamed of it. Because I was never an egotistical person because I've had all the ego and attitude beaten out of me by radio. Radio beat the crap out of me. And so I always had an appreciation for it. But it is kind of rough when one day in DC you've got Adele singing in your conference room and you're introducing Dave Chappelle at a stand-up gig after having dinner with him, and then you go to a car dealership where you've got somebody picking you apart, taking you out for a test drive, spending 8 hours of your day to sell a car and then saying no. And making you feel like crap. I remember one day, because people weren't ready, people who are real jerks, a lot of times never deal with somebody who can speak like I do. So this woman, she's sitting there at the table, and she goes, I need a salesman over here who knows what he's talking about. And I got up, and I put my fist down on the table, and I said, I know what I'm talking about, and if you don't want to buy a car here, then I would suggest you leave. And she stayed. So, it was nice. But I looked at it as a learning experience, and all of the things that I've been through, all of the tribulations, and you've heard my story about tribulations leading to enlightenment. Of course, I'm not the person that came up with that, but we all go through tribulations to reach enlightenment. And I've been talking today to people, and the number one question that people ask me, and you shouldn't ask me this because I don't have the answer. What can I do? What can I do to save the country? I said, well, volunteer, vote, and when they attempt to have have an anti-Israel rally, get as many of your big badass friends and go down there and protect the police and the people who are there, because our government isn't going to do it. And I don't know about you, but I'm about done with this bullshit in Washington, D.C. yesterday with police officers pepper sprayed, 6 police officers injured, one arrest, and you got a guy in the January 6th prison who didn't touch anybody for 1,000 days without a trial. Do you want to live in that country? I don't want to live in that country.
No.
That's ridiculous. We can't accept it. And I know in your heart every day, you probably wake up and you just got a knot in your stomach and you're like, what can I do? Say no. Say no. Make it known. I'm not going to play along. You don't need to just be an instrument of taxation and production. You don't need to do that. Say no. Call them out. Make them famous. If they do something stupid like tear down a picture of a kidnapped kid, make them famous. Get them fired. But above all, say no. Pursuit of happiness. You can't pursue happiness when your salary's gone up 3% in the last 3 years and grocery prices have gone up 30 to 100. You can't pursue happiness. You cannot pursue happiness. I've been there. How often do you at 52 lose your house and have to go on food stamps? That happened to me. That's another story I didn't want to tell anybody because I was ashamed. But I had to do it. You know what I found out about food stamps? You eat better than you do without them. I mean, you eat better than with the groceries. I was getting all sorts of stuff. I was like, what? I got $800 a month? I'm going to Costco. And I found out that on the first day of the month, people would go in and just heap their carts full of food, and it was food stamps. So I actually did pretty well on food stamps. But I hated doing it, and I got off it. But the government, I never asked for a government handout. It was there when I needed it, and I used it. And I paid a bleep ton of money and taxes for 30 years, and that's what I did. And I felt awful about it that I had to do it, but I did it. But if you're making 50 grand, and I think Senator Kennedy said the other day about $9,700 a year is what inflation is. What does that leave you? That's why people put all their groceries and stuff on credit. That's why credit is so high. You can't pursue happiness when you're just terrified you're not going to be able to pay the water bill, or when you're getting ready to lose your home. I lost my home in D.C. We short sold our house in D.C. and destroyed our credit and rebuilt it, selling cars. It was funny because I never sold a car in my life. And I go into the car dealership and I hadn't been on a job interview in a very long time. In a radio, sometimes you get a suit, sometimes you don't. Car dealership, you never get a guy coming into the dealership for a job with a suit. I walked in with a suit, I sat down, I made eye contact, I shook hands. I had 2 car dealerships fighting over me. I went to the one that offered me more money, and the first month I sold more cars than anybody in the dealership. I sold 23 cars. I grossed $13,000. And all the guys at the dealership who've been there for 20 years, they're like, who's this young pup coming in here selling cars? But I did. And you know what happened 3 months later? My wife said, I'm giving you the second chance. Well, you're not going to get a third. And I saved my marriage. And a lot of other folks haven't too. I made some notes here. Censorship. As I mentioned, I think we're on the front end of a revolution. And you know the amazing thing? For the last 20 years, we've been told that we're racist. We've been told that white people are white supremacists, black people should hate white people because they are white supremacists and they're privileged and all of that stuff. And I remember growing up in the 1970s and 80s. And my generation, Generation X, was the first generation that we didn't think about race. Honestly, Uhuru had made out with Captain Kirk 10 years earlier, but we didn't think it was that big a deal. We thought it was kind of hot, right? Like, Captain Kirk, I'd be going for that too. Come on. But we didn't think about it. I was talking to a gentleman earlier, this gentleman right here with the beard, or the goat. We're talking, I said, when I was growing up, I had a World War II veteran, my dad, he died in 1994, he died 72 years old, he had lung cancer, so he died too early, I was still in my 20s. But we would sit as a white family in the Midwest, and we would watch the Jeffersons. And then we would watch Sanford and Son, because Sanford and Son was funny. It was funny. And I knew all the characters, and we didn't think about it at all. And we watched All in the Family. You know why? Because All in the Family was Sanford and Son. They're poor, lower middle class. And what's the one thing that they had in common? Family and joy. Family and joy. I didn't know I was poor until about 2 years ago when I grew up. I did not know I was poor growing up. Because we had food on the table. One year we got a sleeve of government cheese. Have you ever had the government cheese? Right? So my mom said, Grandma's living with us now. We're taking care of our infirm grandma. We can go, they're giving away government cheese. And we wasn't like, we were begging or anything. It's just big damn cheese. So we got a sleeve of government cheese, about the length of my arm. And we ate government cheese. We had so much government cheese, we ate grilled cheese without the bread. It was incredible. Like, I don't need a grilled cheese sandwich. Can't afford the bread anyway. but I didn't know we were poor. I didn't know we were poor. Because at Thanksgiving, we raised, my mom and dad, you swear I would have been growing up in the 1920s. Because I grew up on a farm and we raised everything. Everything. You know what a free-range chicken is? When you let it out in the yard. I know. It's a free-range chicken. Well, we had free-range pigs and free-range, cows and free-range whatever. But when we got together at Thanksgiving, which is my favorite holiday, we celebrated the richness of our family together. There was no drinking, there was no whatever, there was no drama. We just feasted. And my mother insisted everybody stay out of the kitchen, and she cooked the meal for 60. And I was on the 8th card table, and then by the time I was 35, I moved to the 1st card table. But there's a lot of that in America. Black, white, Indian, doesn't matter. We have a common, many things in common. And particularly those of us who've been in of means that were very low, we all celebrate the same way. We all say jokes. We all give each other shit. In a black family, you ever been to it's the same as a white family. It's the same. It's community. It's humor. It's celebrating what you have. And those are the things that are going to bring us together. I like to say this, and many people are concerned about the division we're feeling in our country, worried that we're divided down the middle, but we're not. We're not. 76% of us believe the country's going in the right direction. 24% are fine with it. That means 76% of us can come together to save her. Don't you think? Don't you think? The other day I said something on the air, and I said, when we talked about the off-year election that just happened, and we were all everybody was bummed out that we got clean, we got our clocks cleaned, and oh my God, conservatism and abortion and all that. No. What happened in Ohio was what should have happened. Because we sent it to the states. We sent it to the states. And the state of Ohio did that. Now the people of Ohio are against it will have to bring lawsuits and try to turn it. But that's what it was. We had a national law on abortion. They got rid of Roe v. Wade and sent it to the states. That means more than half of the states have pretty big restrictions on abortion. They didn't have it before, okay? So that's the way it was supposed to work. And it sucks because we couldn't do Ohio. And the people of Ohio and other places, we have to help turn that around. But we got it, we made it, so it was up to individual states. And if you didn't want to live in a state that allowed abortion, you could move to that state. Do you understand? We didn't lose. And I want to say to the people in Ohio and the people on MSNBC, if abortion is so big to you, pay for your groceries with an abortion. Buy a car with weed. Well, some people do buy cars with weed. I think Sean did that in college. How much for the Pinto? I got 3 ounces at home. But that's it. We didn't lose that election. The election in Virginia, did you realize the one person, there was one, we had one fewer member of the Senate, and now apparently that person, the Democrat who won, was ineligible. So there's a real good chance that we have a tie and Winston Sears will be the conservative. So we didn't get killed in that election. They won a couple of local elections that were social issues. But you know what happened down ticket? There's a town council that got voted out in Michigan because they said, the previous council said, we want a Chinese battery plant near our town. And they fired them all. And they changed the locks the next day. You know what else? They kicked out school boards wholesale in cities around the country who were down with CRT and all of that. Would you consider that a loss? No. So we lost on abortion in Ohio. We had a mixed election in Virginia. We realized that a good share of the voters in Virginia are sucking on the teat of Washington, D.C.